If you visit the big library in the Nottingham city centre and check out their newspaper records, you will actually find information about the events detailed here. This story takes place around 15 or 16 years ago. I was just 7 years old and my cousin Dale was around 9, maybe 10. He was staying with me while his mother was away looking after a sick relative. Since I was an only child, I didn't have many toys, and my Sega Genesis was busted, so we didn't have many things to do that were entertaining. Our days consisted of watching cartoons on our cable television, followed by Dale telling me scary ghost stories as it turned nighttime. My mother, sympathizing with us and wanting us to do something more active, decided to purchase a pair of walkie-talkies for us to play with. We had fun with them, journeying through a neighboring Strelly village and hiding far apart in the woods, while the other person would try and find them by using the walkie-talkie. Since we were quite young, however, we weren't allowed out of the house for very long, and so we had to be home by 5 p.m. We returned home later, about 6, and had our dinner. By this time it was around 7 p.m. We decided we would call it a night and packed all of our toys away and got ready for bed. However, we didn't pack the walkie-talkies away. Dale was staying in the spare room, and I had my own room, and so we planned to talk to each other through the walkie-talkies until we fell asleep. That's when we heard the thing that would change us forever. It was about 11 p.m. at night, and we had been telling ghost stories over the walkie-talkies for hours. All of a sudden, while Dale was telling me a story about a monster that supposedly haunts the same woods we had been earlier in the day, his voice was cut off and replaced with the usual static noise the walkie-talkies produced when the talker had accidentally let go of the button used to speak. I waited for a few seconds for Dale to carry on speaking, when I heard a faint mumble coming from the small speaker. That's odd, I thought. The speaker was still emitting static, but I could definitely hear some kind of movement and speech. The sound of crying could be heard through the static. This was very creepy to me, and so I dived out of my bed and rushed to the room Dale was staying in. He was sat bolt upright in bed, also listening to his walkie-talkie, which was emitting the same sounds, if not a second or so behind mine. The crying grew louder. "What is that?" Dale asked. "I thought you were playing a prank." When I told him I wasn't, his face dropped. He switched his off. The crying sound still emitted from the walkie-talkie I was holding in my hand, making it impossible for my walkie-talkie to be picking up sound from his. "This is creepy," said Dale. The crying and mumbles through the static seemed to get slightly clearer and louder. I switched mine off too and went back to bed. All kinds of ideas were flowing through my head. Perhaps I was picking up the sounds of the afterlife. Perhaps my walkie-talkie was simply broken and producing weird sounds that just sounded like crying and mumbling. I tried not to think anything of it and went to sleep. I was awoken the next day by a massive bang which seemed to be coming from downstairs. It was around 6 in the morning, and I rushed down to find my mother and cousin looking out of the living room window at our neighbor's house next door. A large police van had pulled up outside and our neighbor, Jessie, was being led outside by several officers. She was screaming profanities and insults and even tried to run from the officers at one point, before being pushed into the back of the van and handcuffed. We were very shocked by what had happened and generally confused. Jessie had been our new neighbor, recently moving into the house next door with her baby after our old neighbor had died of old age. She had kept to herself, and as far as we had known she was very quiet. And it didn't seem like that type of person that would be arrested for any reason. It was until the next day when we received our daily newspaper that we found out what had happened. Jessie had murdered her baby after apparently seeing horrible apparitions of an elderly person in her house that had tormented her for weeks, and she had finally snapped and turned loopy. This wasn't the disturbing part though. The disturbing part was that fact that the baby monitor in the room the murder took place had been switched on during the murder. My cousin and I heard everything. Hey everyone, Macabre Sanity here. I'm sorry for not uploading a lot of videos lately, there's been quite a lot going on in my life. However, next month Pokemon exists 20 years already, and I'm quite a big fan of Pokemon. I've always been, I always will be. So next month I'm having a Pokemon themed month with Pokemon Creepypastas. I'd like to give my special thanks to Midnight Fears, who helped me set up my channel, gave me some tips and advice on how to get started. And of course my subscribers, you guys, special thanks to you guys for listening to my contacts. It is very appreciated that you guys listen in, it means a lot to me. If you have any creepypastas or scary stories that you would like narrated, send me an email at macabresanity@gmail.com. Thank you for listening, I hope you guys listen to any of my future videos.